just like the Snuggie, you should make a giant, onesie like that, but then have it so it seat belts to the back of your chair, and even if you do pass out, you're still tied to your
You
chair.
like slump down and you're like choking yourself on the Snuggie.
I mean, people pay extra for that, but that's just, each of their own. Hello, and welcome to another Dead Pixel. We're a podcast about video games, anime, entertainment, life, a little bit of everything in between. I'm your host, as always, Joe, and with me, uh, the still suffering from turkey coma, Nick. How you doing?
Yes. Yeah, I have been blacking out every 2 or 3 hours. So hopefully I won't black out during this podcast. But yeah, blackouts very common symptom of after Thanksgiving turkey coma. Um, uh, that's not something that you'll suffer from if you have a pig rossum for your Thanksgiving. Just putting that out there. Not
I
pressuring
mean,
anybody, but it is an advantage.
sorry to all the people in Waco who might have suffered through him blacking out on the I-35 as he slept through. But yeah, good luck
Yeah,
to you all.
yeah, yeah, uh, yeah, yeah, about that. Anyway, so, yeah. Anyway, just want to let you guys know about that, but hopefully I won't black out anymore in this podcast. It seems to be getting a little fewer and further between. But otherwise, I had a pretty good Thanksgiving. Joe, how was your Thanksgiving?
Pretty good. Yeah, we celebrated a birthday earlier in the week, and then spent some time with some other family, but then kept the actual Thanksgiving pretty quiet. Just the household, just to ourselves. Uh, yeah, made a bunch of food. My kids are constantly asking for dessert every time. Like, dude, it's breakfast. You just had Cheerios. You're not having dessert. Uh, you gotta wait till tonight. And then not you're not always gonna get dessert. It just happens to be you're lucky this time. A birthday followed by Thanksgiving, we just happen to have leftovers. Okay, kid. It's pretty funny. Yeah, we're good. Super tired, super busy, but hey, that's life, right? So all right, let's get into the news. We actually got a bit of news despite all the holiday stuff coming up. So yeah, what'd you find for us?
Quite a bit of little good stuff, little interesting things in the past week, honestly. Biggest thing is the increasing rumors that Sony is making a portable system, a portable gaming device. Um, Most recently, it's that it will be a portable PS5. That sounds like a really big stretch to me. Um, but Xbox has been talking about a portable system for a little while. There have been rumors on that. The Switch, the Switch's success over the past almost 8 years now, um, is it has been probably in the minds of people at Sony and Microsoft. So it kind of makes sense that there would be some thought at Sony to make one of these. I
I think it's
just
more
occurred
about
to
the
me,
Steam Deck than it would be the Switch, though, at this point, because I know that the Steam Deck and all the competitors to that have really hit it big. And with both Microsoft and Sony pushing more on PC platforms, it just makes it more viable. Uh, I
well,
would
I
be
think of the
amazed to have
Steam
a
Deck.
PS5 in a handheld, though. That just sounds too powerful.
Yeah, I think the Steam Deck is just to show that the Switch is not the exception. It's like, hey, Steam Deck is, I guess it's working. I guess it's really popular and selling as well as Steam needs it to or whatever. Um, but like to me, the Switch and the Steam Deck are successful for specific and different reasons. Um, and think that I think Sony least of all um, has the has the ability to go into or to take from those reasons. I think Microsoft kind of does because they have Game Pass. They're really in a bit of a weak position because Steam is already there, and that's pretty much to me what they would be doing. Nintendo has Nintendo games, um, and and kind of that section of the market cornered. So it just occurred to me that it's possible that Sony might be floating rumors out there. I'm sure they're always working on some kind of portable thing, just in R&D, just in case they strike gold. But it occurred to me that maybe they are just floating rumors out there right now to see the reaction and to see what experts weighing in think. You know if, I mean it's like if they say this and there's like a huge spike in everything on all the podcasts talking about it and YouTube and Twitch, people are like, oh, the word of mouth like starts really going around. Then they would then in that case they'd be like, oh, hey, maybe this is something we should do. Maybe there's enough there for us to really go in full force on this. That's kind of a conspiracy theory mindset, but it would certainly be smart to do that instead of like blow a bunch of money on R&D that ends up just being a loss. I,
Um, so they've been. It kind of makes sense that they'd be going for a handheld again. I mean, people were already excited, or slash talking about it when the Portal came out, and the Portal sold better than most people expected. And the people who have them seem to be happy with them. So, granted, it's not a complete handheld experience, but they've also in the like literally just like the last month they've gone ahead and upgraded PlayStation Premium. So if on the portal, if you go into the you can actually it's a beta option. You can now stream if you have a PlayStation Plus Premium subscription. You can stream games to your portal. So you have that like ability to actually get more functionality out of it. So they're making it better, more versatile that these are all like key things that you would want to work out the bugs on this before you come out with a dedicated handheld. And for especially for people who want to get a good um, the idea of getting the good first party stuff that Sony has to offer. If you want to play stuff like God of War and things like that, I mean, having a handheld being able to play that, granted, it'd be more something along the lines of if you think about it like a PS4 quality, but you don't need as the Steam Deck has proven you don't need 4K, on a tiny screen like that. You can get away with 720p because just it's the way the screen is, especially if it's an OLED and it has the darker blacks and stuff like that. That really helps compensate for a lot of things. As even the Switch OLED has proven, Switch OLED looks far better than the standard. So it kind of gives it that extra jolt it needs. But also Steam Deck also proves that with their own OLED. The games being able to with Steam Deck having a lot of developers already thinking about that in mind and then dumbing down the graphics and trying to tweak the settings to be portable ready, that makes it pretty easy and pretty viable to then port it over to if it's a multi-platform game and if it's the Assassin's Creed and they already have a settings for the Steam Deck, they will have it for the Xbox handheld and the new PlayStation handheld, and those will be quite powerful compared to whatever Nintendo's got. Nintendo has the charm of their staff being able to maximize for their personal equipment and whatever extra gimmicks it may have. It'll never be, at least I shouldn't say never, but the likelihood of it being a real powerhouse or a graphical threat, like as far as a competitor, is a moot point. They're going to change. They're going to do things to help work with their system, change the art style, make it look more cartoony, um, do whatever they want to. If they're going to have detachable, Joy Cons again, they will do their own thing.
yeah,
And yes, it's in the portable space, but Nintendo will do what Nintendo does and make money, essentially,
print
and
money.
they'll
Yeah,
do, and their fans will be happy.
yeah,
So essentially, like, but with I can't see anything like Xbox or PlayStation following in any suit compared to that. They're more, like I said, they're more chomping at the bit for the Steam Deck market, and just Switch just proved that yes, people like handhelds,
Yeah.
and they like it when you can hook up to your system, to your TV, and so you can have a little bit of a little bit of both worlds.
Mhm.
I think so long as PlayStation doesn't, I will be. I like PlayStation handhelds. I had the PSP. I had the Vita. I actually had the Vita TV. I mean,
Yeah.
the Vita wasn't a bad system. I absolutely, but the moment they say if they're going to pull out a dedicated proprietary saving memory card again, I'm out because I'm sick and tired of Sony trying to do proprietary save stuff.
My
Just give me a normal SSD like Nintendo does. Yes, it's going to be hacked. Yes, it'll be broken into. Whatever. Just deal with it. But you make fans so much happier. Unlike when Xbox did with their hard drive solution with the series. Like, yeah, we if you want to upgrade your hard drive, you have to buy our outrageously expensive, stupid memory card unit. I'm like, memory cards are a thing of the past. Stop making them proprietary. That's
yeah,
all I'm saying.
I mean, like like to me, what if I were to create a handheld for Sony, what I would do is I would go, okay, show me the specs for PS6. Now, let's make a handheld that will be able to play PlayStation 6 games at at a downgraded rate. I would say, okay, we're going to you can get like God of War 3. I know they're not going to make it or they're going to just make it, but let's just say God of War 3. You can buy it on PS6, and then you can buy the downgraded version for your I'm going to call it a PlayStation Portable 2. That's what I would do too. Is I would bring back the PSP name that everybody loves and say PSP 2 and call it that. That would get like a bunch of people to go crazy, like, oh, they're bringing it back, oh. But I would make it so that you could just buy the game for that. Um, but then you could also buy a PS6 version and then buy a downgraded version for a little bit more. Like because the thing that Sony has is those top of the line best um, proprietary first party games, kind of like Nintendo, but same but different. But so if they don't, so if they make a PSP, if they make a portable system that does not utilize those proprietary first party awesome games in some way, shape, or form, and even and it really kind of needs to be like the pretty much the brand new ones, then it's going to fail like everything else. The thing that Nintendo did that was smart is they did all the, Nintendo had all the due diligence. They had years and years of decades even of the Game Boy, working out and the DS, and they figured all that stuff out. And they had their home, they had their main console system, and they were finally like, okay, we have enough in the bag with the DS, and we have enough tech, and we have enough first party software that we can make this thing work, and go put all our eggs in that basket, and it'll be okay, even if it's not like sells gangbusters. Well, it sold gangbusters. Sony is kind of has kind of done some of that work, and they have some of those same things that Nintendo had prior to the Switch, but it's a big risk, and I don't think that they're ready. Like I think Nintendo, if anything, just showed, hey, you can't do both. You can't live in both worlds. You can either be a console system, like a big system like that, or you can be portable. But you can't really divide your forces like that in this world. There's just too much. There's just too much competition. So I don't know, but like if I was Sony, that's probably what I would try to do. Is I would try to make it so like you can get a PS6 or a PS5 Pro, and you can play the new games, and then you can also play them in a downgraded version, but it's the same gameplay, but a downgraded version graphically, um, on this other system. And that's something that I would be really into, even if it was super expensive. I'd be like, that's pretty freaking cool, but that's a tall order. I don't know if they'd be able to do that.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem is they tried marketing themselves as the legit console experience in a handheld, boasting the first party major games, and you got like the Uncharted and Killzone and stuff like that. You got some stuff that tried making its way, didn't quite work out as well. Uh, what
Good
you do
games.
is you
That
make
yeah,
a yeah, they were good games, but at the same time, they didn't live up to the console counterparts. For the handheld ones just did not add up. You couldn't. It was promising too much. That's why the Vita became such a indie darling. And then when the Switch came out, it kind of then took its place, which is fine. I mean, indies were small bite-sized games, quick play, simple graphics. Makes more sense on a handheld. And what you do is, you're gonna have to do a one-time, pay the game, buy it on whatever console, and then have that be a free copy onto the handheld. Um, I don't think you can charge them again for it. I think the people, everyone's entitled. Everyone's gonna expect like no one's gonna want to buy the same exact game twice. Especially a crappier version. Even though if it's like a $40 version of whatever the next Uncharted is or the new Marvels, whatever, Spider Man.
yeah.
Uh, no one wants to spend $40 for a downgraded handheld version and then not be able to play that on their TV. Instead, you're going to have to make it a $70 game, and you get a free handheld copy. I think that's just the way it's going to be. Now, yes, you're gonna have to pare back a lot of the graphical settings. You're not gonna get the ray tracing or anything like that. The shadows may not be as good, and for sure, it's not gonna be 4K or anything like that. But it doesn't need to be. That's
If
the
it's
thing. It's like,
true 1080 on a tiny screen, like a 7 or 8 inch screen or whatever, probably more like 8 inch screen, that's going to look really good. And if you can do, and it's like 1080 is pretty much all you need for a screen that size. And if you can do the rest of the stuff pretty well, you could end up with something that would look really fantastic, I think.
yeah, I mean, 1080 be more than enough. Honestly, I think 720. Most people, it's passable for most people on a small screen.
Yeah.
And once again, when you look at the popularity of the Portal, it kind of sells itself, especially since you have all the features that a current uh, DualShock controller has. Like you have the adaptive triggers, you have the proper, stuff like that, the touchpad. So the touchpad replaced by the screen. You can see them kind of using that as their template, and then instead of making it thicker essentially. But if you have some of those hallmark things, it'll kind of make it stand out from your standard Switch. The only problem is when you have a screen that uh, pronounced in the middle, you're gonna have to protect it some other way, because you can kind of drop a Steam Deck, and yeah, you don't want to drop those things, but at least the screen's not gonna like shatter instantly. Well, I feel that if I dropped a Portal, that the screen's done
It's
for.
kind of
Like it's
exposed there, right?
yeah.
Because
So
yeah,
and so it's because it's literally a screen strapped with two controllers
yeah,
on either side. And so, granted, you fill that out, you make it a little thicker. You could technically argue that you're getting a better or closer to console experience if you're streaming. Streaming technology is getting better as time goes on. People seem to be more and more happy with it. And
yeah.
like I said, they're already beta testing it right now. So
That's the thing.
you can,
That's probably the
yeah,
real reason why they're considering this. Why all the main ones are considering this, because streaming is coming. It's going to happen. They're going to make it so that all the games can be streamed or whatever. Especially if there's if there's internet everywhere, and if especially if they can get a deal with like AT&T or something, and have you have like a 3G, sorry, a 5G connection to your PSP2 while you're streaming the game, then that's even better for them. They're so yeah, I think there's a lot to do with the streaming aspect that's coming.
yeah. And if they're like I said, since a lot of these first party games that are coming over to Steam anyways, a lot of people are trying to already setting up profiles, or at least they're trying to make a Steam Deck equivalent for settings. Well, if you already have those kind of settings already set up for a handheld, it's not that like why not make it kind of equivalent to your handheld, and also make your handheld better so you can up it so it looks better than than the Steam Deck. That then you're just kind of making yourself just look better all around. I think that is a smart play. Question is whether or not they'll financially back it the way it should,
They
because
won't.
that's Sony does a good hard marketing push initially, and then they traditionally taper off kinda quick. That's why people were so surprised when the, PSVR 2 came out because they're like, "Oh, yeah, the PSVR 1's gonna get the Vita treatment," which didn't and didn't. But the fact that they came out with the PSVR 2, uh, that one, they did a lot of things right with it. And yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, they're kind of making more better and better iterations and on things and learning from their mistakes.
So
So
if you compare the PSP and the Vita with the VR1 and VR2, it's a marked improvement in the winning hearts and minds with the VR1 and 2. They did do the spineless thing that Sony always does with those side projects where it's like it's not making gangbusters, so they just abandon it. But at the very least, with the VR1, there wasn't anything that was like absurd about it, like the proprietary software and stuff that they tried to put in Vita and stuff like that. Um, and with the VR2, it was like, okay, they made a push, and it's like, well, let's see if people really will like this, and it didn't sell as well as they wanted to. I really think that they're stupid for not continuing with VR. To me, if it were me, I would just keep dumping money in there. They're making plenty of money. Um, they need to keep dumping money into VR because everything will be VR eventually. Like, eh, I mean, it's not that great now, but in 10 more years, when the visors are that much smaller and that much and like way better, and everybody's like used to it, and everyone's like getting them for Christmas and all this stuff, people are going to be like, it's you want to be you want to have already done the due diligence the way that Nintendo has with all of its portable systems and stuff, because otherwise you're going to because they keep abandoning stuff like that. They're just they're just they're going to kick themselves later, because I mean, like they are with the PSP. Like they want this portable gaming device, maybe if these rumors are true, and they already had all these, like they had the PSP and the PS Vita like right there, but they abandoned them, and so they lost all of that good work. And it's like, well, they can't just be losing money all the time. Yeah, but you can have a vision and go for it. But anyway, that's that's just
yeah,
Sony.
well, I would say Sony may have stepped back from the VR scene, but the third party scene has, the companies have really still been going hard. Skydance is about to drop the Behemoth this week. They're supposed to be. I mean, and then you got companies, you got games like Hitman: World of Assassin coming out. And granted, it got pushed back, but better to be pushed back and come out with a proper game than what they came out with on MetaQuest. So I mean, it's coming out a little bit later now, but that's fine. You still got a lot of good games coming out on the PSVR system, but also Sony then decided to do the other thing where they helped open it up to PC, so you can start accessing stuff that way. Um, it's still especially with the price drop during the holiday season here for the headsets, it's a great headset, arguably um, one of the better ones. I mean, it's better on a PlayStation system because you can utilize special features that currently the PC doesn't really have full access on. But I'm sure enough people on the PC um, will jerry rig one way or the other. Some mod it so you can get proper proper side features, haptics and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I mean, Sony hasn't necessarily completely abandoned it, but we at the same time, we're not relying on Sony for the games for the VR. Sony did that with the handhelds though as well. It's unfortunately they dropped Vita kind of quick and fast, but having to spend
Yeah.
so much money on the unit and then having to spend so much extra money on a specialty memory card. It's just ludicrous. You can't do that nowadays. And if they do, it's going to hurt them in the long run. No one wants a memory card that they can only use for this one piece of garbage.
Dude,
Like,
yeah.
I don't know. That's it. Just becomes e-waste at some point, which is unfortunate. And I still have I still have my Vita. I still liked it. Uh, and there are certain games on it that were amazing. One of which is finally coming out next month is Freedom Wars remastered, and it was essentially my big foray into a Monster Hunter like
Style game,
game.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, and it was set in a dystopian future where you're all prisoners and you're literally trying to work off your time sentence,
Yeah.
and you don't even have the right to sit down in your jail cell. If you sit down and you get extra years tacked on, so it's
Yeah.
like
That
everything,
was pretty funny.
it was hilarious that way. I was just like, you have the option to run. So the moment you run, you're like, don't have the right to run. Extra 20 years. And it's like, what the crap? But it was stupid, but it was funny. And you
Yeah.
had the
Yeah.
it was Attack on Titan, hooks essentially that you help pin down the enemies, and
You had a
the game
button
was
mash in that game
pretty awesome.
so hard. Gosh. My
It
fingers
was ahead
like
of its time.
and those Vita buttons are so pointy and sharp. I like fucking almost bleed my thumbs smashing X in that game. Yeah, yeah, I was gonna say um there was a lot of good games on Vita that kind of got stuck on there, like Gravity Rush. People loved, and that's why they made Gravity Rush 2. And they brought it out for the PlayStation 4, and it still didn't really sell that well. Kind of a critical darling that really they probably shouldn't have followed up on, but I'm glad that they tried. Um, and then like Freedom Wars, that the Killzone game. I forget what the subtitle was, but that was a really good game. I played through that. Um, the Uncharted game was really good. Tearaway was I played a tiny bit of that, but it didn't really catch me. But a lot of people really liked that, and I could see why. Um, I think that the problem with the Vita 2 is that you had those back that like the back swipey buttons, like the touchpad buttons or the touchpad on the back. Um, Killzone utilized that pretty well with like throwing grenades and like one or two other small things that I was like, okay, that is really cool. Like that's a really cool, and it worked pretty well on that one. For some of the other stuff, it was just kind of gimmicky. If Sony does end up making another portable gaming device, um, I just hope that they learn from the sins of the past, where they don't have anything stupidly proprietary, um, and they don't do gimmicky stuff with it. I would, if I were them, I would try to make it just like as one to one with the PlayStation 5 or 4 or whatever, so that you can very easily later on port games over to it. So you could grow the library where it's like, I mean, it's like, hey, it's basically as powerful as like maybe slightly less powerful than an actual PS5. Like if whenever it comes out, it's like slightly less power than an actual PS5. Um, but we can port games over to it as time goes, and that way, at least people who only have that, or who kind of like want to use that for like their bus trips, or like maybe a kid only gets that but doesn't have anything else, they have something to look forward to, where it's like, the overlords at Sony are paying attention to this system. And yeah, I don't have everything on it right now, but they keep porting games over to it. So I can in the future count on them to port over some really good games that have, basically sold all they're going to sell for the main system. Um, that at least that's one of those things where it's like it wins hearts and minds, and it's not something that you have to get to like right away. So anyway, I am very very dubious about anything they do. I think that the portal is really freaking stupid. I've said it. If you enjoy it, I'm really really happy for you. Um, I really am, and I hope that people do like it. But I think that it's silly. Um, but I would eat crow if it came out that Sony was like, hey, we had to make that because we were going to try to make this other portable thing, so we had to kind of work some bugs out. I would be like, oh, okay, well, I guess that makes some sense. But anyway,
Well, I
so
mean, they seem to learn from their mistakes as well because what you got to do, just like the Steam Deck and just like the PlayStation Portal, is they've learned that they're not making a handheld for children because that's cool. That was the form factor with the PSP and the form factor for the Vita and the Switch. Essentially they're all great handhelds if you're children, if you have smaller hands. Um, and generally, one of the things that I've always had to buy was I did it with the PSP and the Vita. The docking mount, just so you can actually mount it and then have the side grips that feel more like a proper controller. And then when you can see they learned from that when they did the Portal, because essentially you're holding on to a regular PlayStation controller. It has the same grips, same form factor, so it fits in your hand properly, and that makes the most sense. So that way you can see that if they follow this kind of form factor style, yes, it's going to be bigger and chunkier than like your standard traditional portable handheld. But the Switch also kind of felt broke that mold because everything else had to be very much like the DS. The DS had a smaller form factor, and I even bought a docking station or like a handheld grip for that as well. And that was forever ago. But when you got to something like um, the Steam Deck, well, guess what? That's thicker. It's bigger. It fits in your hand like a proper device.
mhm.
And these are for adults. Adults will figure out a way to put them in their bag. Put them in a case.
Yeah,
It's not going to be just tossed. It's like if people can just toss them in a backpack. I mean, granted, most people are going to take better care of a multi-$100 unit, and so
yeah.
these aren't meant for children. These are handhelds meant for adults, and therefore the grips and form factor should be fit accordingly as well.
And
So I
Sony
don't.
is,
I think it'll be.
besides the Xbox, Sony is the most likely to actually do that. I don't know why Steam. I guess Steam Deck, maybe they just had other priorities or they couldn't make the money work out properly. But Sony, along with Xbox, probably are the most likely to actually do what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, Steam essentially did it just as we need the hardware to mount it in a unit this small and this compact. But they're also straight up saying like, "Hey, we're not going to make a Steam Deck 2 until we can get a substantial jump in hardware, not small iterations."
Yeah,
Because had they followed the Apple model, we'd be on Steam Deck 3 or 4 by now.
yeah.
They only had the original and then the OLED, and and other than hardware, like some initial internal memory size, differences, everything else is exactly the same. So that's fine. I'm good for them. I mean, it's the other companies that are doing the iterations because they're playing catch up, and Steam's winning because of their OS. The ease of use makes it huge.
Yeah.
And if I'm gonna have to do Microsoft and I'm gonna go through their marketplace, that's gonna suck. That's gonna be terrible. I do not want to deal with that. I
Well,
think aesthetics wise, Sony is probably going to be the ones who pay more in R&D just to make it look like a decent piece of hardware. How it performs in the long run, that's the different story, and how long they back it up.
yeah.
So we'll see. But anyways,
Well,
that's a lot of talk for a hypothetical.
yeah, it is really interesting though. But and there is there's a lot of history here. There's a lot of history with Sony screwing these kinds of things up. And we want it to be good. I mean, you and I both would be like, if if it was as good as the Switch, but it was like in Sony's style or whatever, obviously upgraded for the time. But if it was along those lines, um, I know you and I would both be tempted to buy it, you know, and depending on what came out for it, we probably both would eventually, if for no other reason than just morbid curiosity to actually have one, and because we have a podcast about video games. But the only thing that I'll say that Sony could do that would be really good is whatever the main system is at the time. Let's say it's PS6. that PlayStation 6 and preferably PlayStation 5 controllers be able to connect to it. So it's like I have one I have one PS5 controller, and along with my PS5, and I get a PlayStation Portable 2. Let me obviously play with it as it comes, but let me use the controller that I already have to hook up to it. Don't make me buy another controller. That would be like terrible. I can understand if they were like, well, you can't use PS5 controllers, but you can use PS6 because that's because we made it that way or whatever. I'd be like, yeah, okay, I kind of get that. As long as they kind of make it like, to me, it's like you want to make it like with the VR, the way they made it. It's like we already have this system that can basically play a pretty good VR setup. Have controllers, we have this stuff. We can kind of get it going with PSVR 1. If you kind of just do that on this portable system with some of the stuff that we already have, you'll go a long way to helping me go like, oh, I'll go ahead and buy it because I already have a controller for it that if I go to a friend's house, I don't have to play with it handheld. I can set it up and I can have this controller and it'll be awesome. So anyway, that's the last thing I
So
want to
are
say on
you
that.
imagining this being docking to a TV, or are you saying just putting it like the Switch using a kickstand, and then you and your buddies like on the commercials, just shoulder to shoulder, staring at the small tiny screen?
If I was Sony, I would not necessarily uh, I would not necessarily prioritize being able to hook it up to a TV. Um, I think that the main thing for something like this would be portability. It's like if you can do it without too much trouble, like really not too much trouble, then okay. But if I were Sony, I'd be like, this is something that can stand alone, but it's not really going to be hooked up to a TV. Like it's one single form factor. The onboard memory is what it is, um, and you can like it's got Bluetooth and it's an all-in-one thing. That's what it is, and it's designed to go with the other Sony thing that we have at the time, the main PlayStation that we have at the time. Um, if you start doing more than that, because that's the way that you can get it to be the cheapest, and you don't like run into like weird, like you have fewer weird problems like this isn't connecting or this piece broke off or this thing blah blah, that you have to start charging more for pieces that are more likely to break or not function properly. To me, I would make it as simple as possible and something that you could stand alone with, but you're not like, but like isn't going to, um, yeah, preferentially wouldn't want it to be your only thing, but you could anyway.
Yeah. All right. I mean, yeah. What you do is you just make this, as part of the going hand in hand with the new system. You
Yeah,
discontinue the portals, and essentially make this new handheld. The portable PlayStation Portal. There you go, three piece.
yeah,
And
and you'd want it to be able to do what
that
the portal can do as well, which is like,
yeah,
you know,
it can mirror it can mirror your console, but at the same time, you can actually take it on trips and on airplanes and stuff like that, and that makes the most sense. Uh, yeah, I think being able to hook up controllers to it will be easier because the whole Bluetooth, Sony is being more friendly nowadays compared to the olden times.
yeah.
So that shouldn't be as big of a problem. And yeah, all right. I don't know, interesting future ahead of us. I probably, my guess is we won't see anything until what, 2026. Um, I mean, it's like that's like, we'll see what happens, but
I
I'm
mean,
not going to hold my breath.
it,
Essentially,
to me, this feels like maybe an after PS6 launch. This feels like PS6 launches in maybe 2027, 2028, somewhere around there. And then this is more like a 2029 thing, probably the year after PS6 launches. Is, hey, we got this cool thing that we were working on at the same time. That's what I think.
okay, great. All right, well, What else you got for us, man?
We got some other stuff we can kind of glaze over. There's a new game by Tencent that is coming out, or maybe published by them or something. But basically, they own it, like they own everything. Um, the game is called Light of Motiram, or however it's pronounced. Um, and the thing about it is that people are calling it a Horizon clone. Uh, and I can see why, initially the aesthetic does seem similar to Horizon. Um, I'll just say like the art design, some of the characters, the clothes they wear, the world itself, the giant animal robots and things like that looks just like Horizon. So it does seem like somebody at that development team uh, took Horizon and was like, "Will we basically want to do something like this? We're going to use this as a template, and that's just what we're just gonna use this as a template." And here we go. Watching a little bit of the gameplay, it does seem the gameplay, the game style is different from Horizon. First of all, the graphics, like the textures and stuff that they're using, the models and stuff they're using, they're not like ripped off of Horizon or anything like that. They just look like it, and they're much worse. They're much cheaper, lower
All
poly
right.
type of.
It is early footage though. Like the thing is it's the gameplay of Monster Hunter meets the art aesthetics and the world of Horizon essentially because you're looking at like small groups of tribal people, or at least that's what it
Well,
seems
you're
like
planting
with
crops and stuff like that and growing them. And then,
and
yeah,
so it's very much a mash of two different things, and I'm like, you know what? If it plays like Monster Hunter, but like I get to beat up um, robot, dinosaurs or like cats and stuff like that, like giant saber tooth tigers. I'm like, that's okay. At the same time, there's two other instances where it's like you can off the top of my head where you can think of same but different kind of similarities. Like you had the whole PAL world, PAL world side by side looking at character pictures, like, yeah, I can totally see them ripping off Pokemon, but the gameplay itself is substantially different in certain ways, but also very much the same in a lot of ways. Like,
yeah,
hey,
it's
it's coming from an
extrapolated.
orb,
Yeah,
you know. And so then you also got Genshin Impact. Genshin Impact, just at the beginning, like, oh, this is just Breath of the Wild. You had the glider mechanic, you had the art style, very much, like, just off the cuff, you're like, yeah, this is totally just a clone, right? But then very much a very different thing later down the road. So it can be at best something like that, right? That's what we're hoping for. Like if you're trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, um, very much inspired by Horizon's machine mechanic art style, and then but very much does not play. It seemed to play more like a deliberate, slow pace. It showed a dude with a giant hammer.
yeah,
So that's how I roll in Monster Hunter,
S-
and I'm okay with that.
yeah. I'm okay with all that. I think that the world, the aesthetic of the art and stuff like that, just the I don't know, if like the design, like the art design of the game, uh, it's way too close. It's just you see it, and the first thing you think is this looks just like Horizon. It just looks like a chibi Horizon or whatever you want to call it. But it's purely ripped off from that. So I think that should probably change. I don't. It's supposed to come out on PlayStation at some point. I don't know if and when Sony is going to weigh in, or if they're okay with it. If I was Sony, I wouldn't be okay with it. As far as the common thinking on how you should defend copyright is nowadays. If I was Sony, I wouldn't put up with that. I'd be like, you guys need to go back in and change that. We're not dealing with that, or we're going to sue you.
What I found was funny is they didn't even bother doing like a color palette swap
I
though.
know.
For like it's just like you could at least made them a different color alloy, like just darker instead of the light color. You're like,
Yeah, or
I
the
don't
or the
know.
energy, not blue, make it like purple or green or something different
So
than
it's
yeah.
very much we fed this into AI, and this is what our AI gave back to us as character designs.
Yeah, some of that
Um,
stuff I am thinking. I was looking at it and I was like, is this AI designed? And I was like, yeah, it probably could be. Which is sad that now anything that least looks the least bit suspect, and probably a lot of stuff that looks pretty dang good nowadays, we're gonna have to be like, was this made by AI? I don't know. Maybe kids won't care, but we'll see. Anyway, I just wanted to bring it up because I was like, dang, this is a uh, pretty egregious as in terms of stepping on the art style of Horizon.
well, I mean, most people don't even know Horizon because they all just left it for Breath of the Wild. I'm one of the only people who like. I actually really do like
You're
Horizon
a
a
true
lot.
fan.
Um, Not even. But I'm a true fan of the original. I did not get my time into the second one like I should. Just I haven't been able to. Same with the God of War, the second one. This is I just haven't put my time into it. Um,
Oh, did you never finish
but it
that?
was no, never
Oh
did.
wow. Okay.
So that's is I got my PlayStation so late, and I just catalog and new stuff just piles on top. So I just need to dedicate my time to both Forbidden West and the uh, Asgard God of
Ragnarok.
War, sequel. Oh, Ragnarok. Thank you, Ragnarok. Yeah. So uh, that's just it's kind of the thing is the I do think that Horizon is a great game. Uh, but very much a different game. It just got overshadowed both times by Legend
Uh,
of Zelda, and I
uh,
mean, it, yeah, it's just which is sad because Legend of Zelda has like it's that the mechanics are there, but the story isn't. Well, this one has most definitely story. Like Horizon's always had a great story. Uh, some of the new models for the this new light of Mortaram, it goes like you have giant woolly mammoth machines and like a gorilla looking thing. It's like okay, that's cool. Very much some different things, but very much inspired by otherwise. Uh,
yeah.
it's it's very much it's like it is it's copied, it's ripped off, but it's not one to one the same. But dang it, man, you could have at least come up with some more original stuff for sure.
Yeah, it's too much. It needs to be changed in some way. That's what I would say.
All right. Yeah, but Tencent's going to get away with it because Tencent has money and it makes so many other people money. So Sony is going to respect the that and not care
Yeah.
if that's going to be left to the Horizon team to, whether or not they want to file suit. So good luck, whatever may come out from it. All right, what else we got?
Next up's Nintendo. I just have here Nintendo may sue a 200,000 member subreddit group. A subreddit that is based around piracy of Switch games. I could have or I could pull up the article, but I won't. Um, I think it's specific. It's based around piracy. And I think it's specifically piracy of Switch games. Um, I think that's a bit of a alarmist headline. I think it's probably more likely that they would sue the operators of the group rather than like individual members who clicked to join one time on a subreddit and then promptly forgot about it. Um, but I just wanted to bring this up because it's showing that Nintendo is not playing around, and I'm wondering now if I probably said this before, but I'm wondering now if they're ramping up a lot of these lawsuits and stuff like that because the Switch 2 is coming out, or is going to be announced eventually, ostensibly one of these days. So I'm wondering if they're trying to scare the crap out of anybody and everybody that ever thought about uh, playing a Nintendo game and showing it on YouTube or pirating a Nintendo game, just scaring the crap out of any and everybody that fits into that group, so that they will be less likely to pirate the stuff that's going to be on the Switch 2, which makes me think that the Switch 2 games will have the same problem where they're just the whole dang game is sitting there on a memory card, a glorified memory card. Um, I don't know, but I just thought it was
Well,
kind
I
of
mean,
interesting.
it was already gonna be it was already probably gonna be like a high probability of being on a cart, like they are now. It's just by also having an SD card reader and stuff like that, you open yourself up, and they've always had that problem. Uh, they are most definitely not winning any hearts and minds, for the most part, and they are painting themselves to look like a bully. I mean, granted, yes, you got to protect your own stuff, but to try to brute force, like, it never looked good on them when they were taking it and trying to take on YouTube, creators
The
being like,
YouTube
"Hey,
stuff was
I'm just."
just stupid. It was like,
It
and I've
really
said this
was
before,
because
they're
people
they're
come,
literally selling your game for you. Like they are advertising your game for you. That's how this works.
and that's and so unfortunately, like them just trying to come after anyone and everyone who's ever done any piracy with against them. It's Arcane. Like it's not a Japan's very draconian in a lot of ways, and they don't really think too much ahead. They just think here and now, and they can't see the bigger picture a lot of times. Unfortunately, uh, I I think a lot of people are just gonna like they're gonna lose fans in a lot of ways, or like people who are like, well, we're just getting picked on now. What you'll do is, uh, chances are, whatever new handhelds the other consoles come out with, or the new Steam Deck, um, if there's going to be eventually be a way to backdoor the Switch 2 onto one of those handhelds, and that's going to be the new popular thing to do. Is we're going to go ahead and load Switch 2 emulator on a Steam Deck and have at it. There you go. Until someone gets sued for uploading it, but it'll be on the internet, so you can find it, torrent it somehow.
And it'll run
Uh,
better on a Steam Deck. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, so that's yeah, whatever. I mean, Nintendo's just being a bunch of jerks.
I mean,
I know you got to
if
protect
it
your
is a
stuff,
Switch
but
piracy,
this is going.
if it is a Switch piracy subreddit, I I do kind of think that's sort of an indefensible spot to be in. If you're on there, or if you're on there, you know, shouldn't get sued. I don't think, but if you're running it, I think that you're exposing yourself to being sued because you are.
You're exposing yourself potentially, yes, but at the same time, especially if you're saying this is how you fix whatever problem you are to make the do the illegal thing, but at the same time, they are waiting until now. Like they could have the
Well,
moment it came up, they could have put a stop to those things right away. Make sure to make the cockroaches run into the dark corners of the internet. But they're like, no, 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 we'll just let them sit forever, and then we'll come at them later on,
well,
fast
they
and hard.
also
I'm like,
do want to get all the bad press, which I would count this as maybe not the best press, even though I think they're in the right. It's they want to get the bad press out of the way now, along with, like I said earlier, you know, trying to scare the crap out of anybody who's ever thought about pirating Switch games. They want to do that and get the bad press out of the way so that they can eventually talk about the Switch 2 and release it, and just have like good press leading up to its release and sell gangbusters and stuff like that.
yeah, well, good for them, I guess. I don't know. I'm
I
as
know
time goes on,
you
they're just
you hate
finding it more and
you
more
hate
funny.
Nintendo more and more. I know. Yeah, I could definitely see why. It's
I'll worry about Nintendo when my kids want to buy the new thing. So until then,
yes,
I
yes.
guess I'll buy used from a GameStop that doesn't exist because they'll be all closed too.
Yeah.
So
What did they say? I mean, about your hate of Nintendo, your sins are revisited upon you through your children. So,
yeah, they'll absolutely love it. It'll be Nintendo everywhere. I mean,
yeah,
it's just like I need the Mario plastered all over the walls, the bed sheets, the clothing. Yeah, we'll see. Uh, though I did see that Mario movie again because just
for
we
reasons.
had the holidays, and I thought the Mario movie last time first time I saw it, I was like, yeah, it's okay. Just kind of like when you saw the Sonic movie, like, yeah, it's okay. But having rewatched the Sonic movie and the sequel, and then watching the Mario movie again, the Mario movie is the worst. I'm like, I'd rather rewatch the Sonic movie again, Sonic 1 and 2, anytime. Just like I don't know, there's something about that Mario movie. It's just between the pop music that just that just doesn't fit with my idea of Mario. Like, yes, granted, I like Take on Me. I don't need like I didn't care about it in Ready Player One, and I don't care about it here. And it's just like,
It's the
at least
ultimate
I've heard
video
Ready
game
Player One.
song.
I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just it's catchy. It's popular. It hits anyone who's lived in the '80s or like loves any of that aesthetic. Like, yes, it's the soundtrack of the '80s, sure, but it doesn't like my association with that and Mario are just not there. It's very much a cheap
Weirdly
pull,
enough, it
and
might be the most 80s song. I mean, Don't Stop Believing. There's there's some Hall and Oates songs. There's some songs uh by, dang, I can't think of his name. Um, the boss, Bruce Springsteen. Um, that would probably fit in that category. But as far as like singular song that is like the most 80s, Take on Me has got to be like in the top 10, I would think.
okay. And but at the same time, I don't associate Mario with Thunderstruck either.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you were
Mario and
telling me about this
AC/DC,
before the cast, and that's like face melting. I haven't seen the Mario movie,
the
but
fact that
that
you
would.
hadn't seen the movie, like that's what surprised me even more, that you hadn't actually seen
Well, I
it. I was
started to
like, oh
watch it
man,
when it came on Netflix, and I was like, and I watched like the first like 5 minutes or whatever of it until see Mario and hear Chris Pratt's voice. And I'm just like, oh, this is just awful. It's just oh. I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I have to turn it off.
yeah, it's honestly, I think the whole movie is, like I said, not as good as Sonic. And Sonic was just like, hey, it's better than we expected because we expected weird teeth and weird body design, and
Is
they
it
corrected that,
better
and we're like,
than
yay.
Detective Pikachu?
Ooh, good point. That's a good question. It's been a long time. I think I personally would watch Detective Pikachu, because but I think kids in general, like young children, would watch Mario any day of the
Well,
week,
yeah, that's
especially if they're more
probably
familiar with the levels. Um,
it's simple.
but
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
there's more substance to Detective Pikachu, uh, than there is for
It's like
the Mario movie. I
it's
mean,
like
literally,
nothing
Mario
versus like
failed his montage.
yeah. It's like
How
nothing
can you fail
versus
your
like
montage? And
go ahead.
oh, I was just so pissed. I'm just no, it's just like literally you fail your montage and you're like, yeah, it's good enough. It's like we'll make Mario do everything. Oh, they make Peach like the all capable person, but yet they make Mario do everything. And it's just like, because there's that. I mean, I don't know. The movie is better than we expected because we were already scarred by the '90s movie. And in hindsight, the '90s movie is way better than we originally gave it credit for. Just like The Last Action Hero, it's one of those things like it grew on you over time, and you don't realize how good it is. Um,
I mean, Last Action
I
Hero
heard.
is coherent. It looks like a proper movie. The Mario movie, I need to go back and rewatch the original Mario movie, but like, yeah, um,
I heard an anecdote about that where apparently the real end there's supposed to be an ending where um Nintendo, like the whole thing's finished, then some Japanese businessmen knock on their door, and it's Nintendo wanting to buy the rights to their life story. And I'm like, "Oh wow, if that's a legit story, if that's how it was actually supposed to end, then it would have made everything way more coherent." Like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that would have been great. And then I think that would have been like the one line of dialogue that fixes the entire thing. Um,
Hindsight, man. Hindsight is 2020.
yeah. But anyways, this uh, I don't look. I'm done with Nintendo movies. And yeah, I don't know, man. I will deal with Sonic dabbing any day of the week before I deal with that first Mario movie again. Jeez. All right, not the first. I mean, not the '90s movie. I'm sorry. I
The
meant the
recent
Pratt.
Mario movie.
The recent one, yes.
Okay.
Um, I actually want to revisit the '90s one again because I don't think I've seen it since the theaters. I saw that as a very disappointed like elementary school kid.
I know I saw it. I don't remember when or how, but I remember certain scenes of it. Okay.
I had Yoshi, but all right. Let's just get on to the next news story.
All
What do you
right.
got for us?
Humanoid Origin has been canceled. This was a game that was being created by
Uh,
old Mass Effect director Casey Hudson that had branched out to his own studio. So that studio.
Humanoid Origin is the studio name. It's
Oh, okay. Well, the game for
so
Humanoid Origin. I thought that was a weird name for a game. I only barely read the article. Um, so anyway, that development studio has been shuttered, the game canceled, and then you were talking about another one as well before the cast.
yeah. So yeah, Casey Hudson founded he after leaving BioWare, founded Humanoid Origin, and they they closed studio without making a single game. There is there was one other studio which I'm of course I'm forgetting the name off the top of my head. It was um,
It was the Dragon Age guy,
World
right?
Untold.
Oh,
It was Worlds Untold. The studio is called Worlds Untold. It had people from Dragon Age and a few other major studios. And unfortunately, they also closed, and I don't. They hadn't come out with the game either. So it's one of those things that people with talent who left their former, companies that these companies that kind of arguably went downhill. So they got out at the right time, or like at least when the decline started happening, and then they tried to make their own thing. For one reason or another, they just weren't able to get their game off the ground, which is really tragic because, these are the people that you'd hopefully have the hope and talent for. Like, yeah, these are the guys who can make them. Casey Hudson, you're like, dude, all the classics that you remember from BioWare. You're like, yeah, got to come out with something good, right? This is, bringing it back. And yeah, I'm more curious about the stories behind it, but they both closed within the last week, and it sucks. I mean,
well, I think that
uh,
these guys probably could have should have taken a page out of Hideo Kojima's book, where it's like you can have all the ideas and you can go out on your own all you want to, but you got to have big money behind you. And I know nobody wants to go from one, you know, overlord in BioWare slash EA to another in Sony or Microsoft, but I think that the way Kojima has done it is the way to do it, where it's like, got to get out from under these guys, got to go over here to somebody else that has the money, who's willing to pay me to more or less make kind of what I want. Do that for a game, maybe two, and do a good job and buy it back. Like make a deal that, hey, I'm going to go into business with you. We're going to make money, and then I'm going to buy it back from you. Like that's the way to do it. And it seems like these guys for both studios, they went out and good for them, but they didn't have enough firepower, enough money essentially to really make these things work, which the business side of games is pretty tough. So it makes sense. So anyway, I
yeah.
hope that they do it again. I hope that they make something good. I just think that they will probably have to go get a good a good well moneyed benefactor before they can do it.
I mean, yeah, it's one of those things that's much easier said than done. I
Yeah.
mean, you're talking about Hideo Kojima, who was able to still stay in the good graces of a Japanese company, leaving from one to the other. But also, you got to realize the timing of said departures, right? Because at least with Casey Hudson, tied to Anthem, which came out the same, 2019, which is what Death Stranding came out in. So Kojima's already out and already had things up prior, while no one could have left in 2019 and foresaw the pandemic happening, which guaranteed threw a wrenches in everyone's plans. Who was going independent at that time. So I mean, it's like it's not a quite easy one-to-one scenario, but yes, ideally, everyone has everything lined up beforehand before leaving. But who know? It's also kind of hard to say how they left the company because being tied to Anthem, or at least Anthem under their belt, not sure how much or how long stayed after or before Anthem. Not
Just a
but
flop. Yeah.
it was terrible. I mean, it kind of. it arguably like killed the company in a lot of ways because you're like, ooh, after Andromeda and then Anthem, or it was Anthem Andromeda. I don't honestly don't remember anymore. Just
Pretty
back to
much,
back,
it was a 1-2 punch,
you know.
regardless.
And yeah, I think it was Andromeda. Then I'm sorry, Anthem and then Andromeda, but it was nonetheless, it was a black eye to Bioware who was almost untouchable at the time, um,
Well, they'd
and
already been bought by EA, and it makes perfect sense to me. I mean, like they were already they'd already been under EA's watchful gaze for quite a while, and it's just, I mean, nobody stays on top forever, but it also seems kind of interesting that there's all this money and all these people, all these good people in these games, or in these development studios, and they have these good ideas. Anthem had some good ideas to it. You had a lot of good ideas in Mass Effect or whatever, or at least capable people to pull off whatever you were looking to do, and they're both huge flops. And it happened to coincide with EA being a big part of that. So I don't
yeah,
know.
but EA published Mass Effect 2 and 3,
Yeah,
so I mean,
the
it's kind
the
of
rot had not set in would be my argument against that.
the moment. Yeah, I mean, you can tell the gameplay changes. But then, granted, around Mass Effect 2 and 3 was also when EA was voted the worst company to work for multiple years in a row and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So, yeah, once again, it's like a lot of people were excited to see what these companies were going to come out with because they had a lot of good talent backing them. Uh, and hopefully, maybe we'll see something else in the future that they can come out with.
yeah,
So, hope everything comes out well, especially right before the holiday season. It's the worst time to shutter a studio. So, best of luck.
Yeesh. Yeah, that sucks.
All right. All right. Is that it for the news, or you got anything else for us?
Two more things I can just mention. We can move on. Shuhei Yoshida exiting Sony after 31 years. Um, from what I understand, he was pretty good. He was pretty good executive. Made a lot of good decisions. I'm sure he made a lot of bad decisions as well, but kind of oversaw the PS4 era completely. I think the PS3 era for all of it or most of it. I mean, 31 years. I don't know. I don't know how much of that is him being in power or him just being at Sony, but definitely somebody that was pretty well liked, I think, across the board. And we just wish him happy trails.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's most definitely the lifespan of the console, and although I know there's a bunch of photos showing him holding the PS1, so I'm not really sure how like what his role was with the PS1 at the time. Uh, but for sure, will most definitely be missed. I know, uh, was the face of Sony for a long time. Greg Miller's best friend.
Yeah, Greg
Oh, wait,
Miller's
like
best buddy. I mean, yeah,
so I don't know. Well, there was nothing. Yeah, he was very much a likable presence for sure. So I mean, but still very young. So might as well enjoy your time.
I
I mean,
mean,
he's
to me,
60.
yeah, he
So
may as well enjoy his retirement. To me, his claim to fame was he was the final boss in, or he was a downloadable extra boss in near Automata, which I find to be just completely hilarious. I think he might have been involved in just a couple other little spots, but that's like the most Yoko Taro thing, and I'm just glad he was game for it. So very cool.
yeah, for sure. All right. And what's the last bit of news you got for us?
Godzilla coming to Fortnite. So I only mention it because I know that you are excited about Godzilla, and neither of us are excited about Fortnite. But at least something good is coming to Fortnite finally. That's just a joke,
I don't,
but
dude, they get so many weird collaborations, which is kind of really cool. But I'm like, I am so far removed from Fortnite. I'm like, what is going on here? I'm like, is it like an environmental damage thing? Like Godzilla comes by and just sprays the field with a laser blast. Like the reason why the field gets smaller is because Godzilla's destroying it. I mean,
like
or is Godzilla going to be holding an AK? like that, which would be hilarious
I
in its
mean, it'd
own
be cool if
right.
they made it like a level where he's like stomping around and you have to like fight everybody while he's stomping around and he just like randomly stomps on people, or you have to risk getting something that's under his where his foot's about to be or something like that. That would be kind of cool. I could see them making that, but I don't know.
You can only play the Godzilla map when you have the Attack on Titan characters, and then you have to fight it like a Titan. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just the love of Godzilla is most definitely up there now. I mean, all the comic book crossovers they've had, um, Wolverine just
Yeah.
being vaporized, just a skeleton, going at Godzilla and stuff like that. It's hilarious. I find it great. It's the
Well, I
probably the
mean,
best time to be a Godzilla fan.
like Godzilla has entered the realm of culture where it's it's not really just an IP. It is literally like part of popular culture. It's it's just like
It's not an IP. It's a way of life.
yeah, well it's like a staple. It's like oh, it's like been a meme more or less for so long that it's like King Kong similarly. Yeah, they're gonna make movies about it and it's somebody owns it, but it can fit in anywhere because it's like kind of ridiculous, but also kind of fun. I think that we should probably do that with Superman, uh, at least, and probably also Batman, even though I wouldn't really appreciate that. But I'll admit that like those two things are also getting to be so silly and memeable that they should sort of be kind of semi-retired and but kind of utilized in other places because of what they are. But anyway, that's just my thought.
When you say doing the same, you mean like having Superman and Batman in Fortnite? Uh,
Like, you know, where it's like we all respect Godzilla, but we also think it's kind of silly. We can all respect Superman and Batman, but also think that it's kind of silly. Captain America, I don't really think it's silly. I don't really necessarily respect him all that much as like Superman, just as like a comic book character. Iron Man, even Spider Man, Thor, the Marvel stuff. It's not really. It doesn't have the same. Doesn't carry the same weight. But it's also, and as far as like respectability, I guess. Um, there's a word that I'm also thinking of that that I'm trying to think of that I can't. But those are also less silly to me. Whereas like Batman, it's like it's a guy that dresses as a bat. He's just flown under the radar for all of us, where we kind of take it seriously, but it's pretty ridiculous. I mean, like if you just like step out of 1930 into 2022 or whenever the Batman movie came out, the most recent one, and you like look at it, you just be like, what in the world is wrong with these people? They're watching a movie about a guy dressed as a bat, and it looks cool, but it's like really dumb too. I don't know. It's one of those things where
See,
it's like it's one of those things where you look at humans and you're like, humans are so freaking weird. Anyway,
I've had a problem with the DC universe for a while. That's why I'm like, I was just telling you beforehand, like after rewatching a lot of the old Superman, uh, Christopher Reeves movies, I'm like, wow, those are bad. Like he has all the powers. Like
yeah,
seriously, all the powers. He has them all. Like he can, he does it. He does it all from time travel to drilling to memory wiping, kissing. Like he knows. Yeah, he can. He just makes Lois forget stuff. Just boom. Just like he is. That was, it's a terrible character,
it's a simpler
from the
time.
movie standpoint.
Yeah,
And then at the same time, it's just like, it's the problem when you have someone who's too, like in the comics, too OP. Like after a while, you're like, okay, well, uh, the only reason why Batman ever wins against Superman is because Superman has such a he has the honor code and he's just too nice of a guy. When in reality, it's like he can just lobotomize him from like a planet away. Um,
yeah.
so it's I don't know. I have a problem with the DC characters, and I find them to be more silly than serious anymore. And whenever they try to make a new movie, it's just like they just need to screen wipe, wipe the entire franchise, start from the beginning, and pretend like nothing ever happened, and then quit trying to make them dark and gritty, and just make them good,
Grim.
just like fun, good, whatever. You can add color to the scenes because guess what? Like, do the Marvel stuff where like at least not every Marvel movie, especially late, but the early stuff, was good because it was different.
Mm.
You don't have to try to follow the same template. Like Winter Soldier was a spy thriller. I mean, it was very different than the first Captain America, or it was very different from any of the Avengers other stuff. And that's why Guardians works so well because it's more of a independent comedy thing.
Mm.
Um, DC just has a loss of they just don't know what to do with their IP, um, and it's unfortunate. I think Warner Brothers also it's just they're in a world of hurt. So
Yeah, Warner Brothers makes the best choices. So anyway, Godzilla coming to Fortnite.
yep, all right, good for Godzilla. Maybe good for Fortnite. I don't know. It's going to make people money. Um, I just like I said, I'm curious. I just want to see Godzilla with a gun, much like uh, Ryu when he entered Fortnite, because that makes more sense. All right, guys. Let's get to what we've been playing. You finally got to. I thought you. All right, yeah, I'm curious about the game you've been playing because I thought you already did this one, but we'll see. Um,
So I played through all of Greece, the Spanish game published by Devolver Digital. I forget the actual developer. It starts with an M, I think. Actually, kind of an interesting name. I remember that. Thinking it was a pretty good name. Nomara or something like that. It was like a Japanese name. Anyway, so this is a
Nomada.
Nomada. Yeah, so close. So this game came out, I think, 2019. Very pretty game. I always wanted to get my hands on it or like play through it. Famously, it's a pretty short game. I thought it was like 5 hours. Really, it's more like 3.5, maybe 4 if you kind of play around a little bit. But simple game, side scroller. You're not really doing too much. They add in little bits of gameplay here and there, and even by the end, you're really not you're not really doing all that. But the art aesthetic of the game is really pretty. The sound effects of the game are really cool. The songs and stuff they're not overly prominent, but they're good. And really, um, it's just really like really pretty chill game. So if you have an afternoon, um, I would say it's well worth your time to spend the 3.5 hours, or maybe do it in 2 sessions or something of 2 hours. It's well worth your time to play through it, and especially if you are in the mood to be chilled out, because it is very relaxing, I think, to play. Um, there's no words in it. um, I think that is the meaning of the story is pretty obvious, in some ways, but also it's left open, which I appreciated in other ways. And yeah, it was just a good overall game to play. So I would recommend it to pretty much anybody, and especially if you want a good example of, I don't know, good art design, I think. So yeah, but before I'd only played it for maybe like 10 or 20 minutes, and I was like, I want to play this. I'll play this later, and I just never had picked it up again. I think I had it on Steam or whatever, on a long time ago when I only had kind of bad monitors to play games on. But playing it on PS5, because it was included with PS Plus, and playing it on a 4K OLED TV was a really nice experience. The colors all popped, and it was just it was pretty cool. Also, the PlayStation controller makes sounds and does like different stuff that my old Xbox controller would not do with the PC. So that was kind of an interesting added experience. But yeah, it's a good game. It's a good game. I liked it.
Yeah, I like I said, I remember you talking about it forever ago, and that's why when was it Neville was coming was announced, you seemed to be pretty hot on it right off the bat. So for some reason, I just always thought you finished
Well, I
Grease or Gris.
definitely
I always forget.
I respected Greece at the very least for the aesthetic because I had seen pictures of it and stuff like that, and, screenshots, and I was like, dang, this is a really beautiful looking game. I thought it was going to be basically like a glorified of glorified side scrolling walking simulator where you're just like literally walking through a side scrolling world, and it's not much more than that, but it is more than that. There is some gameplay um, that's involved. That stuff that could be a lot more complicated, but they do a pretty good job of not outstaying their welcome, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. So anyway, but just the initial aesthetic of it and kind of what I had heard people talk about it as far as the story goes had me excited for Neva, which I would still like to play. I don't know if or when I'll get a chance to play it, but but that's still on my radar. And this only makes me more excited, eager to play Neva.
Okay, well that's cool. I'm glad you got a chance to that. Let's see, we are running into a little time constraint here, so I'm going to go ahead and let you talk about what the show you've been playing or watching, and that way I'll go in more in depth of my stuff next week. Uh, because yeah, I know you kind of were really hot on it, and it's still fresh in your mind. So tell us what you've been watching.
So I finished up Arcane season 2. Um, and there was a friend of mine that I played D&D with that uh, I didn't know this until the middle of season 2 was out. But he mentioned he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna like we finished up D&D when he was like, I'm gonna go finish watching Arcane." Um, and I was like, "Oh, you're watching it?" So we talked about it a bit. And his initial take on season 2 was that it was not as good as season 1. And I was like, well, it took a while to get for season 1 to get rolling to me. So I'm hoping that season 2 will get better. Not that it was bad, but just that it will kind of have the same sort of reach sort of the same heights and the same depths as Arcane season 1. Um, and he was like, yeah, okay, yeah, maybe like hopefully that'll happen. Well, the rest of season 2 came out, and uh, I've watched it, and it's not bad. The quality of the animation holds up. The a lot of the things, I would say, pretty much everything holds up, um, except that it is crammed, and I say that as opposed to rushed because the quality is there. So it's not like they did things sloppily. They had the story that they wanted to tell in the writing, I guess, the scripting and all that stuff, and they executed that properly. So to say it was rushed is not accurate to me, but it was definitely very crammed. There's a part in the middle of the season where I was like, okay, that is where this season was supposed to end. They were supposed to have more stuff going on to make that be the crescendo, um, and the kind of Empire Strikes Back style ending to season 2, and then the the rest of the show, probably like the last 3 episodes, were supposed to be season 3. That's the way it looks to me as I'm watching it, because it goes up really fast and then you're like, and then like the last 3 episodes are like bang, 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 and there's like all this stuff, and there's like this, there's just all this stuff that happens, and I'm like, it's not bad, but it's unearned. It's just sort of like we like you can tell that Riot was thinking this is too expensive. It's really good, people love it, but it's just too expensive, and so we're going to end it because we have, but because we have to, we owe it to the fans more or less, and they'll hate us if we don't. So we're going to end it as quickly and cheaply as possible to preserve the the quality. And now they've announced other shows, like 3 other shows or whatever for offshoot characters and stuff. And so I'm thinking that they're going that they were that they're like, okay, we're going to end this show, and now that we have your attention, we're going to bring back smaller shows that are cheaper, um, with these other characters, and we're going to make our money more easily with those shows. So I think there's probably going to be a significant dip in quality to some degree with the new shows that come out. Um, but as far as like worthwhile to watch Arcane season two, especially if you've already seen season one, you may as well just finish it with season two. It's not bad. It's not it's not bad. I wish it was better. There are things that I wish they had done differently, but it's not bad. And even if you have not seen season one or season two, I think that it's worth it to watch, even from somebody that, even for somebody that hasn't played the games or anything like that. I think it's worth, if you're a fan of animation, it's worth it to watch it, I would say. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's most definitely one of the most highly rated things of just full stop. I mean, uh, like Rotten Tomatoes gave it like 100, and the fans gave it like the first season like a 95 and like a 90 for season two. Um, the fact is, I liked the first season, but I disliked how it was. If I remember correctly, how it kind of came to the end, and like I feel like just certain things were there was just certain things I just didn't like, and I'd have to actually rewatch what I talked about when I first watched this. Talked about this when it first came out, and I like it left a bad taste in my mouth. It was just like, yeah, I just remember being unsatisfied, thinking the ending was not great. Um, and you were really hyped. Like you got, it's like it's funny because we kind of swapped. You were not as hyped in the beginning, and then you got really hyped towards the end, and I went just the opposite. I'm like in the beginning, I was like, okay, I'm really invested, and then as it kind of went on, I'm like, I'm kind of checking out now, knowing that I'm also very much I nitpick things a lot more, or certain things that irritate me just stick with me harder. So, and then for you to say this about season two, be like, I was expecting you to be elated, and then you're like, like you like it, but at the same time, if you're finding issue with it, I'm like, oh man, I'm probably gonna dislike this thing. I mean, it'd probably still be good, but at the same time, it's just like, I just
well,
once again, I think because I started season one and I was very hyped on it. I actually didn't, like I really did like it in the beginning, and then as it went on, I just something about it, like certain things about it, just got me it just took the wind out of my sails. And so I ended starting high, ending low, and then therefore rolling into season two. I'm like, I wasn't sure if they're going to do season three, so I didn't even bother trying to watch it off the bat. And I heard like just some headlines I had seen, like no season three, but then they were going to do like the spin-offs that you're talking about, and then that kind of will do extra filler what you need. I'm like, okay, um, I'm most definitely not interested in spin-offs, at least not right now. But you know, I'm probably gonna. It's only 9 episodes, and it's not that hard of a watch. Um, I'm kind of curious, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know, man. After the way season one ended, I just didn't care.
I think that if you didn't, if you did weren't that high on season one like you are, I think you'd be okay to skip it as well. If you're like, it was kind of shaky. I don't think this is going to really make it any better. They don't like develop the characters any better. There's action and stuff like that, but it's not really anything that's going to blow the roof off. If you didn't like season one, then I don't think that you're gonna like season two unless you just want more action. Because there's definitely more action in season two, which I have to kind of praise them for that. But there's something that you said about it last time or a couple times ago. You were like, it's style over substance, and I think that that is definitely true. It is style over substance, but there's so much style here. Um, and there's all, but that's just because there's so much style here. There is also a lot of substance. Um, with season one especially, and less so with season two. But there's a lot of substance there. It's just there's so much style that it gets kind of overshadowed. So I think it's style over substance is a fair assessment. It's just that people should know that, at least in my opinion, that there's still plenty of substance, at least in season one. So
Okay. I mean, the other problem is it's been 3 years, almost like 3 years to the month, right? So
just about.
it's yeah, it came out or throughout the month of November, 2021. So it's one of the things that's like, well, it's been kind of long enough that I've forgotten a lot of, I remember certain key points and that's about it. And it's just like I feel like for people to come fresh and then to blaze through season 1 and 2, that might be more rewarding for them.
Yeah.
Um and yeah, I don't know. It's just, but they're as a whole, I see that everyone seems to be really liking it. I mean, uh, the meme of the stick figure looking at like watching Arcane being all happy and then being like wanting to play League of Legends and then them just crying, and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty accurate.
I mean,
Uh,
it's pretty amazing that they were able to make characters this good, whatever you think of how good they are, this good, um, out of what was in League of Legends. Because some of the League of Legends characters are just like, we're gonna throw some spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. Um,
Yeah, but they also had really good, like, some of the character designs were really kinda cool and unique, and that's what got,
yeah.
like, when you were introducing me to League of Legends, I'm like, "That's kinda cool," and, it's like, "Alright, I'm gonna pick this person." I have no idea what any words mean in League of Legends, like, "Jungle? What's that?"
Mm.
"What are you talking about, lanes?" And, like, "But this character looks cool," and now I'm getting yelled at 'cause I obviously am playing them wrong. Like,
Yeah, it's a nightmare
why
to
am I
play.
being cursed at?
The gameplay is a nightmare in a lot of ways too. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm glad you had a good time with it, as a whole. As like, you know, I don't know. Maybe if I got some downtime, I'll sneak an episode here and there. And that's the problem is the moment I start a season two, I think I'll have to finish it because it's so hard for me to bounce out of mid season, and
Well,
especially since it's so short. I'm like, that's the other thing. It's like it's only 9 episodes. Are they what,
the
half hour long?
episodes they're not an hour. They're more like
Okay.
40 minutes. I think I several times saw 40, just like 40, 41 minutes, something like that. So you should think of it like a 13 or 12 episode season of anime, I would say. Maybe a little bit, even a little bit more than that. But yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see.
Don't feel
On
bad
that note.
if you don't want to watch it. I wouldn't blame you.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I'll probably just watch someone else's synopsis, the abridged version, right? Uh, but okay, guys. Uh, I mean, if you made it to the end, we appreciate it. This has been ADP episode 103, and Nick, as always, what are some words of wisdom you have for the people out there?
Um, when you get tryptophan, turkey narcolepsy, make sure to wear a helmet or some kind of protective covering as often as possible. So do not engage in turkey eating, turkey consumption without some sort of thing to protect at least some part of your head. Like I am wearing these headphones now in case I pass out. But at least part of my head will be protected.
All right. Um, you know what? You should. There you go. Just like the Snuggie, you should make a giant, onesie like that, but then have it so it seatbelts to the back of your chair, and even if you do pass out, you're still tied to your chair.
You're like slumped down and you're like choking yourself on the snuggie.
I mean, people pay extra for that, but that's just, each of their own. Okay, guys.
Yes.
Thanks again, and until next time, y'all take it easy.
Bye.